My name is Kimberly Jackson, and I'm the Executive Director for the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. And tonight we're talking about the arts. One thing I love about the arts is its impact on Pinellas County, its economic impact, how it's created a geographic shift within the community, and why artists thrive and make St. Petersburg, the Bay Area, from Dunedin and Tarpon, all the way to the beaches, shine. Tonight we're going to speak with some heavyweights in the community who are going to talk about the early stages, how our community has grown, what they hope to see in the future, and the important impact of how we continue to support artists of all genres. We hope you enjoy it, and we hope you continue to support the arts. With me moderating tonight is Dr. Barbara Hubbard, our Dean, which I'm so honored to be here with. Dean Hubbard is an artist and educator who serves as Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts at SPC. She is also the creative director of the Right Brain Workshop, an organization specializing in institutional advancement, educational marketing, graphic design, and creative consulting. I'm so honored to share this space with her tonight. Alex Harris, another fabulous artist, is a musician and artist. He is also the co-founder of the Arts Conservatory for Teens, or ACT as it's known. In its 7th year in St. Petersburg, ACT provides before and after school programming that educates, empowers, and enriches the lives of students. Terry Marks is also a new icon in the community and is making waves as the CEO of the St. Petersburg Arts Alliance. Her first career was as an educator, and she then worked on Wall Street with Fortune 500 companies, including the largest minority and women-owned brokerage. Terry also was a publisher of a magazine for children, as well as owning her own 17-year consulting practice in Los Angeles, serving organizations with budgets from $2 million to over $250 million. And rounding the table, the generous supporter of tonight for the James Museum is the leader of the James Museum, Laura Hine. Laura Hine is a member of the Pinellas County School Board and the executive director of the James Museum. She served for 6 years as an officer in the Navy and also worked in the building industry. She is instrumental to the development of our community. And I would be remiss if I didn't include one of our shining stars in the community, Bob Devin Jones, who is also an icon in his own right and instrumental to the development and growth of the St. Petersburg area. Bob has been a theater worker for over 40 years. He began as an actor performing in Shakespeare festivals, including Oregon, Berkeley, Illinois, Idaho, and in St. Petersburg, American Stage's Shakespeare in the Park, and he is the founder of Studio 620, a place where people can experience artistic and educational programs in innovative ways, and where the answer is always yes. Welcome and thank you, panel. Well, you've heard their bios, which of course is the hardest part for me to get through because it just does not do justice for the the heavyweights that I'm here with tonight. And I'm just so honored that we are here at the James Museum and then we're in this gorgeous space to talk about the impact of the arts. And I'm using first names tonight, Terry, Alex, Bob, Laura, and Dean Hubbard, which I will say her name, Barbara. And we are just going to have a conversation about what it means to see the transition of a community, how we got from just a community of artists to them literally creating the landscape from St. Petersburg all the way to Dunedin and beyond, and why that's important for our footprint moving forward. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dean Hubbard and say thank you so much. St. Petersburg College has an amazing Dean of Humanities, and we are very honored to have her because she is an icon in the community as well, and the conversation will be more robust because she's here tonight. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Kim. Well, welcome everybody. We've got a series of questions, and Laura, I'm going to start with you. It's my opening question. Okay. Describe what brought you here to Pinellas County, and what the artistic landscape looked like when you arrived.
So I was born and raised in this area. So after I had left for college and some early career experiences, I was really coming back home. And that was almost 20 years ago now. And I can say that in the years that I was gone and the years that I came back, it had changed dramatically. And then certainly in the recent 20 years, it has changed dramatically, and certainly for the better. I mean, I think the artistic experience in this area was pretty limited. I mean, it was pretty limited to a couple of museums and a performance house, maybe here or there, and certainly maybe a gallery for commercial, or not commercial, but, you know, the art along Beach Drive or something. But now, I mean, to look at it now, it's just drastically different and wonderful.
I agree. Bob, you've been here 1,000 years with me.
Yes. Well, I came in 1997 to direct a play that I adapted from a Strindberg play called Miss Julie. Lisa Powers invited me down, and she said, why don't you direct it too? So I came to St. Petersburg. Now, I could be wrong about the number, but there were less than a dozen restaurants in downtown St. Petersburg. And in fact, there was an ordinance on the books that outdoor dining was not hygienic. And there was a gallery here or two, museums, as you say, but we didn't have the critical mass of artists. And that's one of the things that has really made an impression. Not that they would have to do some absolute thing, but just having artists in your presence. We all have an experience, but they take that experience and turn it into ballet, dance, hip hop, open mic, artists, paintings, and things. And I've seen the transformation. It's like you said, brilliant, but it's delicious because the bench is deep. There are artists, there are philosophers about artists, then there are more artists, and then philosophers about those artists, then there are more artists, some who have yet to be artists, call themselves that. And there's a place for the littlest of kids, as you well know, because you have to. And you have too, one who matriculated through the arts. So, you know, I'm well met here, and I've been here since '97. I love Los Angeles, my home, the way New Yorkers love New York, but I love St. Pete.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful. Alex, tell us, what brought you here?
Well, what brought me here, I was looking for a place where I can really take my creative experience and plant it in the sands or soils of somewhere that will embrace it in a way that I can grow. And I always share everywhere that I go, and I tell people I think I am an unofficial world ambassador, whether I'm in South Asia or somewhere in Europe or islands. I talk about what is happening on these sands of St. Petersburg and what I have come to love and enjoy and to celebrate at so many levels. It is a destination for the creative mind, the creative expressors in any form, and it led to the opportunities where I can not only express my own creative, whether it's music or in acting at the world famous studio at 620, or providing an opportunity for other teaching artists in various genres, from visual arts to dancing, acting, cinematography, and the list goes on, as well as training other aspiring or students who are just explorers of their creative gifts and skills and talents. And from that, you know, beyond my own express, as I aforementioned, it has led for many of the creators to go on and pursue careers, their childhood dreams. And so I think the sands here, over time, I've seen it really grow and to an expanded way from even when I came. As Bob mentioned, it was more than 12 when I came, but it has grown in such way, and it continues to be a magnet in the sand that draws creators here and to express their creative works in whatever, and experiences, I should say, in whatever form.
I absolutely agree. And our newest jewel in the crown,
Yes.
Carrie.
So I grew up in New York, and so I always enjoyed the museums and culture and performing art and Broadway and off Broadway and on and on. And so when it got really cold, and I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I decided, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere that's warm. And I had been in California. I came to Florida, and initially went to Sarasota, specifically went to Sarasota because there was culture there, and that was important to me. And it translates into not only having places to go and art to see, but the people that are involved in that culture, and that was really important to me. I had no idea until I took the position as CEO of the St. Petersburg Arts Alliance about St. Petersburg, and it's remarkable. I mean, not only the fact that we have 11 or more museums, and we have galleries, and we have performing artists, and we have a very strong program throughout Pinellas County as far as art and ACE in the schools. But it's the people, too. And it's the gift of innovation and inspiration that I'm just blessed to be here. I really am. That's how I feel.
So, Laura, I wanted to ask from your perspective too, because of course it's different. Have you noticed a change over time with alignment? Because you all do very different things. You know, you're an advocate for the arts. You're a performing artist. You're a performing artist, but also an owner and leader of artists. And then you're in the museum world. How do you feel about the alignment and the transition over time?
Well, one of the things I've been really excited about here at the James Museum, which we're still new. So we've been open for about 3.5 years now. So we're still very much a startup. And one of the things that's been great is as I've reached out to different organizations to say, might we collaborate? Everyone has been welcoming. You know, and I've really appreciated that. So I think between, you know, whether it be performing arts, the orchestra, et cetera, I love the fact that we're all welcoming. So I think that's good. And I think when it comes to collaboration and the future here, that one of the ways, I mean, I feel like museums have hit a pretty solid sweet spot. I feel like our arts district is starting to hit a sweet spot, performing arts, sweet spot. And I think some magic could really come from collaborating, all of that more. I would love for this to be a performance venue, to bring it alive with performance, So that's the part. I do feel like people are more and more collaborative.
All right, talking about collaborating, we've seen our county, we've seen our cities become expansive, become all-encompassing. What do you think the arts are doing in terms of the economic success in that transition? Alex, tell me about it.
Well, I think that, something that should be celebrated, I think, at the forefront is what the creatives bring to a city or a county, right? When you think about the volume of work that is provided. For example, we provide a lot of jobs to teaching artists, but in addition to other events and activities, and who go out and buy homes, cars, or pay rent, go to the restaurants. And I often share, when I'm talking about the importance of our industry, if you will, in the ecosystem, it should be, I think, amplified as a small business as well, as the coffee shop, as the boutique. And sometimes I think that is overlooked, is not as celebrated when it comes to certain genres or expressions in the creative world. And that could, and as we continue to grow, I think part of the growth is to see all the nutrients that is, and celebrate and nurture each of those that contributes to the growth, right? Can't take anything away, then you may, stunt the growth, or it can wither away.
Exactly.
So we want to celebrate so that the creators don't start to leave, because that can happen. And so we must make it continue to have the same welcoming in every aspect of what we do,
right.
Through places to stay. And I think it's very important for us to amplify this this message so that it's not lost. It's like don't get lost in the bottom of the bowl of the tossed salad. Make sure there's some good stuff down there. Bring it to the forefront so that we're able, and I think to what Laura was saying, I think as we continue to collaborate in our creating experiences, also invite those who are in position to continue to ensure that we're getting the cultivation that's needed, that pours back into, we're very much part of the ecosystem, but don't throw us out of this
Exactly.
the ecosystem now, because you're going to lose something very important that can cause it to wither. And that's very important, and that's very transparent and I think real talk.
Yes, thank you. And Terry, the contribution to the economic success also means the support.
Yes, so we're, today, we were just talking about rewriting our mission. And so in our mission statement, supporting economic growth was kind of at the end of the mission statement. It's at the beginning of the mission statement as of today. And I could tell you that from Shine, for instance, Shine generated over $2 million of revenue historically for the city. And I know that between the museums and between the restaurants and between performing art, that we continue to do that. And I think one of the keys is to make sure that we have the analytics to be able to prove that out. So we're looking at ways with technology. We know how many people went to a mural during our scavenger hunt. We know exactly where, how much time they spent, and we're starting to collect that information. America for the Arts, we're doing that survey coming up next year. So that's as important, so that we can evidence to the people who are making those decisions about funding that the arts need to be funded adequately and consistently. And so that's my mantra.
Absolutely, because that data, Bob, you know when you're writing the grants for the state, that data is imperative.
It's imperative and it's important. And I also think one of the great things and successes of St. Petersburg, it's the dirt. The First Nations people built their mounds here, and they said, and Tampa Bay is a broad region, but the dirt in St. Pete is pretty special. And I think every city is unique. And then some cities go through this period of being special. And we're 2 decades into being special. And you don't often hear, every surgeon must be an artist, but you hear, artists have to be business people. I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I'm not. We didn't start the studio with a business plan. We have gained expertise. We have had great board of trustees and chairman of the board. But it's great, the success of Arts Alliance, Creative Pinellas, because they understand those analytics. They know how to speak to the people who want that kind of data. But it helps if the surgeon has read Hamlet or Seven Guitars or Fences, but I don't think it's necessary. And I don't think it's devoutly to be wished, but, and I can do 2 + 2 and come up with 4. But that's about the extent of it. So I think it's great that what's really significant about St. Petersburg specifically is a group like your group, a group like Creative Pinellas, that are looking, or even some of the supporters like Bob Glasser. I got a phone call from someone Laura knows very well, Hank Hines. We'd like you to co-collaborate, co-curate a show. Now, you look at the phone like this, and you go, did you get the right number? You're calling me? I mean, that's, it came out of the blue.
Collaboration.
It's absolutely.
But it's key. It's key.
And it makes you feel grown.
Yeah, and it also, Laura, I'm going to ask you, in terms of the economic impact of large institutions, I would dare say it comes down to collaboration.
Well, so economic impact is a big and important discussion, and Kim, thank you for having this conversation. I think the history, how St. Pete became special, I think is from artists and art, because I think artists tell our stories. And we want to, in hearing those stories, it draws people. You know, people move here, they live here, they want to be part of that. And it is what has made St. Petersburg special and made it what it is right now. But now there is that cusp moment of how do we keep that going? And so, you know, turning around that investment, I do want to mention a couple of numbers, a couple of the economic impact numbers as really a business person, I would say, is my background. But so 76% of travelers visit museums or performing arts venues or historical places. And those visitors, those cultural visitors, spend on average 60% more than a non-cultural tourist, okay? So now we're speaking the language of the Tourist Development Council, Visit St. Pete Clearwater, heads and beds taxes, right?
Exactly.
So because art and artists have given us this attraction and we draw those cultural tourists, they are spending more money in our restaurants, at our hotels. And so some of that money needs to be invested to further draw those. We have reached an amazing moment of a cultural place to visit. You could spend a wonderful long weekend here, but we're not investing the monies to the right markets to draw those people that then further supports the kinds of things that we do here. So I think on an economic impact scale, we need to do that. Another number that I might mention that I always found was interesting, and it's a little bit old, it's from like 2015, 850 million, this is countrywide, 850 million visits to cultural institutions, to museums and other cultural institutions, 480 million visits to all professional sporting events and theme parks combined. 850 million
That's a telling
to
number,
483 million. So people, it is a driver. And so people who want to look at that part, I think it's important. And then just like you mentioned, the employment, and I mean, certainly the more we can provide to our community, hopefully the better the wages, hopefully, you know, the better the health and the community vitality. So I definitely think that this is a really important sector to invest in, which I know isn't as fun as telling the stories. And I just pray that the people who come here and tell the stories and do the art continue to do so. And I know we're going to talk about young people, or I hope we talk about young people and keeping them here and how we keep artists coming here and staying here. It's vital. It's vital to who we are.
And Bob, if I might add, we might not have started out as the entrepreneurs and the accountants, but we became very good at our cultural capital.
True. It's just that it's not my strong suit, as they say. And so, like, I cook several things, and I cook several things really well. Kim, you could attest to this. If you say chocolate chip cookies, I think I know. So I like doing what I do best and do often. But all of those other things, and then, you know, we also have some very specific metiches in this community.
Yes, we
There was
do.
a time, anything delicious that happened in this community, the Huffs, Bill and Hazel, were a part of it. They were
Yes.
big supporters
Yes,
of the
they were.
studio at 620. You know, before we even got to, I mean, they came as nice to know you, and then, you know, to knowing that their favorite dessert was pecan pie, or they liked me to make it, my mother's recipe. So I think it's a little bit of this and a little of this, a little of this, and it's really nice to be in a place where it all seems to be working very, very, very well. And like I said, I think we're in our second decade of this renaissance, and it still hasn't crest. We just added a new museum. We have this delicious museum. I mean, they're all very nice, but this is one of the most handsomest place. I feel I'm at the Smithsonian on the Mall in DC. So I'm not only excited, but humbled by the fact that we have just so many cultural institutions, large and small, to get and be fed by.
Can I just mention one thing? I'm sorry. You brought up philanthropists, and I really believe that has been a major driver in the arts here for the last 20 years, because we have had the Huff family, the James family, and others who have participated in a big way. And so both as I think about how we keep the next generation of young artists engaged, how do we keep the next generation of philanthropists engaged, and then also the economic part of continuing our operating revenue and those kind of pieces too. But philanthropy has gone a long way, and I think the reason why is because they're drawn to the story. They're drawn to the artist's expression, and you're moved, and you want to give, and you want to keep it alive.
Yes, and that leadership is all because of you. Because you see the next generation, and it's not just, oh, look at what we have. You share your recipe for those cookies, because you know it will go into perpetuity, because it needs to. Your life's work depended on it.
Right. If I can add too about collaboration, we talk about collaboration with the creators, in the arts space or whatever. But I think it's very important that the community realize that it's important. It's everyone, right? Yeah. So the business, to your point, where you may not be considered your traditional business person, but I think it's very important for the business community, for the political community, the leaders, and educators, and everyone realize that it's an opportunity to collaborate. And as I use the analogy of the toss salad earlier, you can't have a toss salad without having your tomatoes and onions and whatever you enjoy in it, or you just have a bowl of lettuce, right? So I think that it's important for the creators to come up with great creation to keep this evolution going. But also, as a part of that, are those who appreciate it, or it's just like I'm just rehearsing and no audience, right?
Yes.
I'm like, who am I singing to, the chair? So it's the same thing, and I think that's very important, just not looking and enjoying our collaboration, but how it benefits everyone.
Mm-hmm. I'll add to that. So it's interesting, one of the questions that I've asked people is, how has art played a role in your life, in your growth as a child? And so I know for a fact, we all do, that if we've been to museums and we've been to plays and, we've read poems and things like that, that we've grown up with that environment. There are people that have not. There are people that have not been to museums, and there are people that have not been to a performance. And I've met those people, and it's hard because you want to expose them to this world, and also it gets harder when perhaps some of those people are in positions where they are exposed to sports. And so they see the value of sports and what sports brings to a city, but not being exposed to art, they may not see the value of what art brings to the city. And if they're in a position where they're deciding whether to fund one thing as opposed to another. So I think that part of what we all need to do is to continue to educate and collaborate as a force. And that's one of the things that I'm on it.
Yes.
I want to join anyone's team who wants to move that conversation forward.
May I add one thing before we
Sure,
move to that?
absolutely.
So when we talk about, speaking of education and continue to educate, to share in the education experience, I should say, that we're learning from each other, is that I think sometimes there's a very myopic view when it comes to artistic expression or creative. So recently, Terry and we were having a conversation. I said, I've been thinking of this of creative workforce, because when you really think about the creative workforce, that encompasses a lot. Cinematography, the folks who are on television, the working behind the camera, on the camera, are running
front
the
of the
museums,
house, back of the house.
Yeah, Laura running the museum, or the CEO of the museum. And so it's so many jobs that we think only visual artists or muralists or theater people, and say, oh yeah, that's those people. Oh, they want more money. I think when we start to think down that path, that's when the plant starts to wither.
Yes.
And we lose the important of this experience when we start to think very narrow about when we say the arts. But when we say the artists, we're talking about the creators in every aspect of our community. That's how we have gotten to where we are, and how we're going to continue to grow and become leaders in this space where other communities will start to see, oh my God, beyond the welcoming of this. Because in the beginning, I think, you had a few people that understood, but as
Sure.
we continue to grow and, more folks start to come in, it's very important that our leadership, not just in the creative space, but every one in leadership, continue to be reminded and sharing this educational experience as they enjoying the cultural experience, the importance of what our contribution means to the growth of the community.
Yes, because, the arts were never motivated economically. You did what you do.
Right.
You love what you do. You inspire young audiences, and the economics just follow.
Right.
I'm going to jump in here so that we can keep, you all have said so much, you've answered like many of our questions, but the last round of questions really combined three things that I'd like to just share from you all's impact on my daughter. So there was a young man, not so young anymore, Kim Sullivan. Some of you all might know him. He's an actor who's not here right now, but was in town for a very long time. And I literally saw him at a restaurant, and he started harassing me, come see my show, come see my show. And then I come to American Stage, and I learned that, American Stage is committed to doing the entire series of August Wilson, right? So then my daughter and I go to the August Wilson show, and my daughter had been going to American Stage from the educational space. And Todd, and I forget Todd's name, but Todd Olson, Todd ran it at the time. He looked at my daughter and he said, "You're Maritha." And so she literally ended up on stage with Kim Sullivan doing Maritha for the run of the piano lesson. But then it turned out she didn't want to be in front of the camera, hence to you all's conversation. She wanted to run the whole thing. So she wanted to do the stage, and she wanted to do the lights, and she wanted to do the writing, and she wanted to do the directing, and she wanted to do everything, which speaks to you never know what you all are planting into a young person. Fully understanding the economic impact of the career she chose, she still ended up going to college and majoring in English and theater and doing the arts education because that's what she ultimately wants to do. That's the impact of what you all are saying in terms of next generation and just being in an artistic community does. But I really want to talk about the individual artist because, of course, now I care because I want her to make money. I want to take care of her forever. What do you think that we can do broadly to support our artists? And I want to go back to the numbers you all were talking about. The importance of this conversation is talking about the economic impact. Artists bring dollars to cities. It changes the way cities ultimately end up. It's a driver for communities, and then it elevates and changes the community. But then what happens to the artists? Not just here in St. Pete. We like to talk about St. Pete because St. Pete is a beacon, obviously, but Dean Hubbard is from Dunedin and across the county. What is the impact to the artists that creates all this? How are we supporting it? What do their numbers look like? And Terry, I'm looking at you because I know you support the artists, and so I'd like to know from that aspect.
We went through a comprehensive arts strategy. We had 16,000 people in the community as part of that, and 400 people in forums, and on and on. And so there's lots of things in there, including collaboration and communication. And the one thing that strikes to my heart as far as young artists is affordability.
Yes.
And so that, Alex and I were talking a little bit earlier today. My concern is that we will lose the 20 and 30-year-olds if they do not have places to live and they do not have an adequate, income. And what a shame. And then we will, grow into, and I don't anticipate that this will happen, but it's a cautionary tale, into other communities where there isn't multiple generations. And then where's the innovation and inspiration? So I think that, as a city and as a county, we need to really keep our eye on making sure that young folks, students who are getting out of high school, either going into college or not going into college have places that they can live and work and continue with their art education. So that would be.
Alex, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that it's very important that when we think about our continuous growth, that we should consider those who are important contributors to the cultural experience that our county provides, the residents, the local, and that's how we're going to keep. And one of the, I work with a lot of the young people, Arts Conservatory for teens, and some of our students can stay, but most of them go away, right? When they get a chance, they come back and they want to be here, and we provide, again, jobs opportunity. So the volume of work also, what I've learned as a performing artist is that, and I'm going to put this out here because I think it's very important for people to, I'm going to put two things out. When I was somewhere, it wasn't any mayor in the Pinellas County, by the way, but I was participating at an event at a city, and someone said, "Why aren't you up there singing?" I said, "Well, you should ask your mayor to believe in all small businesses." And they were like, "Whoa," and it was somebody that worked for them. And so my point is that I've gone to events and banquets, and so, and a lot of time the artists, especially I speak from my genre of music, we're the last one, and they give us the leftovers, right? So how do we supposed to continue to do that, right? So we have to scramble, or they go get something else and work. And by that, to be very specific, sometimes when you go to a nice hotel, they say, "Oh, it's going to be $50 a head." You know, what if the artist did that? Will we get it? No. They'll say, "We're going to go to the next." So I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, you know, there should be a way that we don't devalue one profession over the other.
Right.
And I've had to help parents understand that one profession is not greater than the other. We are all trained and skilled in different, whether we go through institutionalized education. I believe in both the institutionalized education as well as the, they call it in the country where I'm from, mother wit. Whichever one that is, that you're called to. And I've seen both work amazing. And I think we have to learn as we continue to grow and celebrate what we have accomplished. We must not forget how we got here. And if we forget how we got here, we might just lose why we're here. And the tomorrow that we dreamt of and the growth, we won't ever be able to experience or see. So I just encourage us as a community, you know, to continue to embrace and celebrate. But as we celebrate, don't forget that, you know, how we got to where we are and to start to expand and not just get complacent either, you know, because I think we have to grow with time. Things are expanding. So it's very important. And that's how we're going to have a more positive impact on the artists and who are like here and saying, okay, well, I continue to do art. I'll go and get a quote unquote regular job, or should I continue to do my work, you know? Are we going to lose it? And they're going to be like, what? Well, I just saw that.
That happens a lot.
A lot.
I see that a lot from
It's
artists
real talk.
because they are trying to figure out how to function in the space, and I forgot which one of you said, you do what you do because you love it, and so then that creates a whole other list of issues that you have for this particular community. A lot of people do what they love, but in terms of us valuing
Yes.
this is very different. Laura, you wanted to talk about young people. What do you want to add?
I do. Well, one thing I want to mention, first off, is this museum and this collection is based on the collector's belief that you should collect living artists. So what you'll find in here is not a bunch of early work of the American West. You're going to find contemporary living artists. The person right here, Dan Namingha, is a Hopi Tewa artist, and we have several of his works. But they believed in purchasing art from living artists to help them continue to do their career, because it's important to have cultural value. So I love that. And one of the things I'm looking forward to, and I think other businesses, if you start to think of a museum not just as a charity type place, nice place to go, but as a business and as a chosen field of study,
Exactly.
which we need to create a pipeline for. One of the things we can do, and we do plan on doing, is offering spaces for young artists to sell their work, to show their work and sell their work. I think that that's really important. We can do that in museums and other museums and in creative places. Bob, you've always done this at Studio 620, of course. I also think that dentist offices and restaurants and lots of other places in their waiting rooms could have, now this is visual art specifically, but could have visual art and sculpture with a price on it and who it's by and what their story is, and people who are waiting in those waiting rooms. So that's engaging the business community and valuing our younger artists. I would love to see that. I guess, there's government, there's business, there's education. On the government side, I do hope that our city and county folks are studying, what has New York done over the years? What has LA done over the years to maintain artists living in those cities? Talk about expensive, right? Or then other younger cities like Chattanooga, what they've done to create, thriving. So I certainly hope the people that serve in those policy type roles on those organizations are looking at that and studying it to see what we need to do here in St. Petersburg. So I definitely want to ask people if they're doing that. In the K-12, I think we do an amazing job here in Pinellas County. I'm like a little biased. But I mean, to see these artists that have come from our schools. I was at Gibbs High School the other day, and I was waiting in the office for someone to come and take me wherever. This beautiful man comes in in these drapey sort of clothes, and just the way he stood, you could tell he was a dancer, and it's like, wow, who is this man? And I started talking to him, and turns out he dances on Broadway, but he went to Gibbs and went to J-Hop, John Hopkins Middle School, and now dances on Broadway. And it was amazing. And I'm sure you guys, the young man who's the principal dancer of the American Ballet Company right now, first put on ballet shoes at John Hopkins Middle School, right? I mean, so in the K-12 space and artists, I think that is amazing. I would love for the actual tangible art part, the other surrounding pieces. I asked you about museum studies. We definitely hope that, we'd love to engage in that conversation about how we get more of those kinds of programs, and even specialty, even art history in different genres. Because to be able to hire, you go out and you want to hire, but we don't have that. We don't grow that at home here. So you end up looking elsewhere. But
even what we've done with the county, how many referendums have we all approved each time? And so we're committed to that K-12 support for young people to go into the arts.
And visit the arts. I mean, I think what you said about people not naturally choosing to go to museums, I think it's vitally important that field trips in our schools, starting with our Title I schools. I mean, I know here I said I want you to first reach out to our neighborhood school, and then I want you to reach out to all the surrounding Title I schools, and to get those kinds of field trips happening here. We have a Museums for All program. We have a number of programs there, but that's a really, really important element.
All right, and that rolls right into the transition of what can we do individually, collectively, to promulgate, to promote, to support that in our county. What do you think, Bob? You've been doing it, but...
Well, I've been doing it, but I've had great examples. I mean, when Alex and Murph started ACT, it was a beautiful seed. And it has just grown and grown and grown. And the proof is, if not in the pudding and in the baking, because of all of the success of some of your students. But they had initial success right here at home, and many of them have come back. And, so Marquise Floyd, who was just in Fire in My Bones, Shut Up in My Bones, at the Metropolitan Opera House, place that's 117 some odd years old. He's part of that cast. He came into the studio last year sometimes, saying, because of COVID, I had to suspend this tour of Europe with this ballet show I've been with for 2 years. Anyway, I want to offer ballet classes gratis here at the studio. And I said, well, you've just said our mission in one, and of course the answer is yes. And we just took a picture one day. There were 21 students, you know, little African-American, all shapes and sizes, on point. And it's indescribable, the impact of that. So I think it starts with a phone call. Also, a point I don't normally pursue because it seems to be happening. There are a lot of people in positions of leadership, and they make the phone call. They do that. I mean, you made the phone call to the people at the Woodson, and I mean, that opening night, everything you could say about it was said. Just if you just looked around the room, it was the community, every aspect of community down in that arroyo. And you have such a, it's indescribable, the proudness you feel, and say, this is happening in my community. And it starts with a phone call. I'm on the Public Art Commission for the city, but I was on the Arts Council, and you've been on that too, Art Advisory Council. And this was back in the early 90s, or the early 2000s. I was on there for 6 years or something like that. And we'd say, well, we'd ask the group, what about the diversity piece? Meaning, if you ask every aspect of the community, you're going to be strong. And they, yeah, we're going to be looking into that. And I said, no, see, it just starts with a phone call.
Right.
That's all you need to do. Somebody will pick up, and you've started a conversation across lines you don't normally, you know.
Cross-pollinate.
There you go. And so I don't have the big concern about what happens next as long as everybody stays committed, meaning the artist and the people in position or influence or some kind of, I'd like to be more concerned, but each week there's some, I mean, the Shine Mural Festival is just one of the greatest things. I mean, artists give us more to see, and they give us more to feel and to think about. And now the city is bursting with arts. And we also have the big stuff, you know, these lovely museums. We also have the Florida Orchestra, which is based in St. Petersburg. I'm very provincial. I like talking about St. Petersburg and not Tampa Bay. My apologies. But
We have to talk about the county. This is the Institute for
and
Strategic
I live in
Policy
Pinellas
Solutions.
County.
There you go. There you go.
But something has happened magical here, which can be replicated, but we have to acknowledge that it happened here. Who fostered it? You know, I remember when you started with ACT and how it's grown, and you go, look at that.
We're all in North County, North, Mid, and South.
Yeah.
It was this Saturday, I went to Youth Farm, which is an organization that is putting together a greenhouse and showing teenagers about agriculture and art. And we did a mural, and this woman came over to me, and I'm getting chills as I tell you, but she came over to me and she said, I can't thank you enough. And he said, for what? She said, well, your organization gave my daughter a scholarship to learn how to be a metal artist. And she started crying. She said, I never would have had those funds. And it takes so little to do something like that. It wasn't like a huge grant, and it wasn't like a big lift for us to do something like that, and to continue to do something like that. And so my response was, you know what, I know this artist who does metal sculptures, and I have to go see her. Is there any way that you and your daughter would like to do that, like to come with me? And now all of a sudden there's a connection between a young artist with someone who is actually earning, you know, from that experience. And so I think it takes so little for all of us during the course of our day to make those connections and those collaborations.
And I think it's a question of generosity.
Yes.
It's a question, or it's a solution, I should say, of generosity and inclusion. And in in response to, the county, how do we collaborate from, the north tip of the county all the way to your beloved St. Pete? I think it's in this leadership that we continue to then foster
Right.
and promote the next leaders of tomorrow that believe in the love of the arts as you all do.
Right.
I think that's critical.
And that's important. One of the things that I made it my business to sit down with, other leaders, whether it's in the school, the North County, Mid County. I have my assistant to call everyone to have a personal meeting. Even since COVID on Zoom, we'll do a Zoom meeting, whether it's in Clearwater, Largo, throughout St. Petersburg, and just sitting down to your point is making a phone call, and to what Terry said, just connecting the dots. I feel that we can continue to really amplify is the word I love to use very loudly beyond the Bay Area to other places and say what happens when a community comes together, because we don't want to be the best kept secret. We want the secret to be out. And I think that it will only benefit us in every aspect of the human experience. Beyond, we obviously we talk about the economic component, but just the human experience, the health benefits of the celebration
yes.
of culture. And when you can go to a concert, to a museum, and go to the beach or whatever, all in one day, like they say, you experience the sun in California and go to the mountains and experience the snow-capped mountains. But that's what we have. We have here something that's very robust in a way that I think continue to connect the dots and saying, oh, I have a little bit over here, you should come. Oh, really? You exist. And that's how we continue to move forward and encourage others that are coming up to continue to pass forward our experience to others.
And I can tell you, I'm sorry, but I wanted to jump in on the St. Pete College part, where I think that continues to be a big support system for young people, to be exposed through a curriculum, and then to come to the community and be supported by individuals like you.
That's absolutely correct. I love it.
This time always goes by so fast, and it's always so hard to, particularly when I'm talking to people like you all who I love talking to ongoing. But our time has ended, so we didn't get to all of our questions, but we had the best conversation ever. So I want to thank our artists from all different genres for being with us. But before we go, I'm going to let you all say the final word. What is our story? Quickly, just go around and just say, what do you want people to know about the arts? And so that we have this documented. Terry, all the way down to Dean Hubbard.
We are passionate and we are diverse.
We're here, I am here and representing our organization to connect, to have a great cultural experience, and that's pretty much why I'm here.
The answer is always yes.
I love that, Bob. I always have. I think the one thing that this county is welcoming to all different genres, people, types, everything, and let their light shine. And if we can help artists and others just let their light shine, then it will all take care of itself.
Absolutely. I think it becomes a love fest. It becomes inclusivity, equity, and generosity.
Thank you all. The Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions, or like to call ISPS, was created by Congressman Bill Young. And we're very honored at St. Petersburg College to be able to share his vision of having social, political, and economic conversations in a nonpartisan space on solutions in educating, enhancing, and engaging the community. If you want to learn more about ISPS, please go to isps.spcollege.edu, like us on our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, but let us hear from you. These conversations across the county, across the state, and truthfully nationally are important. For today, Pinellas County, and specifically as we talked about St. Petersburg and Dunedin, are beacons of the art and have transformed our community. We want to keep that conversation going about not just the artistic and social space, but the economic and political implications as our county grows. Thank you again for joining us.